Hi, everyone. This is Devin from Curiosity Machine. Excited to see so many people here already. You guys are all early birds. So I think while everybody is getting situated and getting their access going, working out their cameras, we're going to wait a few more minutes to make sure that we have everybody who would like to join us. But feel free to say hi or chat hi. If you don't know how to access the chat box, you can kind of hover at the bottom of the window and you can see a chat bubble. And if you click on that, the chat box should come up. Ali, do you have other LA studio people with you, or is it just you today from the LA studio?
I think they'll be joining remotely.
Great.
Just me in the studio.
We have a lot of Curiosity Machine team members on the training today, so you all can meet them in the upcoming minutes. And then also, if you are joining and want to turn on your camera or are unsure how to mute or unmute, again, you can hover over the bottom of the window and you can sort of see buttons where you can mute or unmute. You can turn on your video. Again, you can join the chat. So feel free to explore if you're not familiar with Zoom or if you have any questions on how to use it. Don't be shy. Maybe wait.
Hola.
Hello?
I'm just muting.
No problem.
Hi, Devin. While we're waiting, I did have a quick question.
Sure.
Are you guys still needing help with Spanish translation of some of the student family facing materials?
Yeah, our materials, you guys will notice this. All of our materials right now are in English and then they're adaptable for translations. I think we have a lot of people who are translating, but definitely, thank you for asking that, Megan. If you guys are translating and if you're able to share with us, that would be awesome. So I will show a little bit today and a little bit in the next training, like the slide decks and all of the resources, and then feel free to let us know if you would like to work on some of that stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for asking. All right, so I am going to chat the slide deck in the chat box, and I am also going to screen share. So Curiosity Machine team, if there are questions and stuff that come up in the chat box, if you can just shout them out, or anybody else can also shout out questions as we start this training. I want to go ahead and start on time because I realize that like a lot of people are taking time from their workday or taking time at a weird point in the day to do this training. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'm excited to see everybody here. And let me make sure I can get this going right. All right. Everyone should be able to see a Curiosity Machine slide deck. So welcome, partners, and we are really excited to have you. I am Devin, who you have probably been seeing emails from, and I'm part of the Curiosity Machine team. We actually have a lot of Curiosity Machine team members on this call today, so I'm excited to meet everybody here, our partner cohort as well. We're going to take some time to hear about where everybody is from, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the first parts of the program. So this is just a quick note. If you're watching a recording, this slide is for you. It has directions for if you have a meeting scheduled with your team lead or if you are unable to schedule a time to meet, what you need to do. So let's go ahead and jump in. So who are we? We are 63 partner sites from all around the world, extremely global. I listed out the amount of sites from different regions of the world so you guys can see a huge amount of African countries and African sites, which I was so excited to see. I wanted to take a second to have everybody say who you are, where you're from, who you're representing. So if you can click on this poll and you should be able to input your information, and I'm sure one of our lovely Curiosity Machine team members has put that in the chat box for you to easily click on. I will go over so we can look at it. So let's take a few minutes to complete the poll, and Curiosity Machine team, feel free to do that as well. Oh, and it looks like if you edit your response to include quotation marks around what you put, you can keep all of your information together. So let me just share how to do that. So you guys can see it when you put quotation marks, you can retain where you're from and who you are. So I'm seeing we have Nigeria, Spain, Salisbury, North Carolina, if my memory is serving me. Pakistan represented. California, lots of Los Angeles, I think. Where is Pimentel? Oh, La Paz, Bolivia. Got it. Awesome. So you can see a little bit about where people are from. Got a lot of Los Angeles people today. So let's take a second and just have people shout out a little bit about where you're from, maybe Curiosity Machine team members, if you guys are able to speak up a little bit too, just so we can get some people talking.
Hi, this is Amy and Kathy from Salisbury, North Carolina.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Horizons Unlimited will be our host site, which is owned by our local school system. So we're really excited.
Thanks for joining us. Who else do we have? Don't be shy. Feel free to speak up. And if you're speaking and we don't hear you, it's because you're muted.
Here we are, representative from Spain.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
It's okay. You're welcome.
Hi.
Sorry.
Roxana and Ali here. We work on the Curiosity Machine team. I'm working with some of you partners, and Ali is working on the curriculum. So we just wanted to say hi.
This is Laura Monferrer from Spain as well, working for Power to Code in Valencia on the east of Spain. Thank you for this opportunity to join to you.
Welcome. Does anyone else want to say hi?
Hi, this is Jose from Los Angeles, California, working for Maces. It's a middle school and high school.
Welcome, Jose.
Hi, I'm Shuba. I'm in Los Angeles and I work for the Curiosity Machine team as a curriculum developer, and it's great meeting you all.
And hi guys, my name's Rusty. I'm also from Los Angeles working with the curriculum development team. Really nice to meet everyone here.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm also with Curiosity Machine on the East Coast, part of the New York team.
Use this interruption. Students who come to pick up Chromebooks must show their summons and permission slip signed. Again,
I think someone has their microphone on. We heard a really fun announcement about Chromebooks. Does anyone else want to say hi?
Hi everyone, this is Judy. I'm also on the Curiosity Machine team. I'm really excited to be partnering with everyone on the call and getting to know everyone. I'm really bringing this opportunity to your families, to your communities. And it's really exciting that we have so many people from across the world. So I'm really excited that everyone is on the call and excited to connect with everyone.
Hi, you've also got Megan and Antonio from Insights El Paso Science Center working with Clint Independent School District. We're very excited to be here as well.
Welcome.
Hi, this is Laura Preston, also with the Curiosity Machine team. I'm in San Francisco, and I'm really excited to be working with all of you today.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm from Philadelphia in the States. I'm with the Curiosity Machine team as well. I do a lot of marketing and social media, and I'm just so excited to see what you guys create.
All right, thank you everybody for saying hi. And as you heard, there are so many Curiosity Machine team members on this call because we have been working really hard on preparing these materials. Everybody who spoke from the Curiosity Machine team has put so much love and energy into preparing our resources in this program for you guys. So we have our whole team here because we're just really excited to meet you all. And as you guys can see, all of these like Asia and Africa sites will be joining us via recording because the times are, hard. So welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time. I wanted to talk a little bit about our partner sites. So thank you to everyone for completing the pre-surveys that we sent out because it gave me some information for this slide. So who are our partner sites? You have probably seen the term coach, as that's what we're calling our facilitators, our educators, our people leading the programs. So 60% of our coaches have expertise in technology and want to share it with children and families. And 46% hope to learn new skills that will help improve their job performance. I thought that was actually a really interesting part that came out of those pre-surveys. You can also see this question: where are you coaching? We had a lot of schools, science technology centers, after-school centers, some government agencies or NGOs sort of fell into here. This huge other part, people were mostly telling us the specific names of where they coached, so maybe there are some schools and science centers and stuff in here. So that's a little bit about who we are. I wanted to mention a little bit about the Curiosity Machine team. I'm not going to go too deep here, but I put in some links. So if you would like to explore more about Curiosity Machine, our parent organization Iridescent, or other program Technovation, which a lot of you also lead at your sites, which is very neat to see. You can click on any of those links. Iridescent has 30 team members, and you met probably about 10 of them. So 30 team members. We impacted 35,000 people in 2017 with Curiosity Machine. Or sorry, 27,000 people with Curiosity Machine, which is about 50 people. So we have been working on refining our Curiosity Machine program and the design challenges since about 2010. So you're going to see some of our newer design challenges today. We're going to get an opportunity to complete those together. And we work really hard to evaluate our model and how we're impacting people. If you would like to read any of those reports, I linked them if you would like to check some of those out. So one thing I wanted to briefly touch on before we go too deep here is this question that we get a lot. Why are we talking about AI? Why are we engaging families? And I think it's a great question because this is not what every educational program is doing. So let's talk about that first question, why AI? So the nature of work in technology is changing a lot. People are maybe hearing negative things about AI or they don't understand. And so Curiosity Machine wanted to create a program that helped not just children, but adults as well to understand AI. We're in sort of a unique situation where maybe like the average person on the street probably doesn't know a lot about AI. So we wanted to create a program that helped people to begin to explore the ideas and concepts connected to artificial intelligence. Another reason why we want to engage families is because underserved communities might not always have access to online learning tools. They might feel alienated by digital learning. They might not know how to bring literacy or digital learning to their homes. And this program tries to connect them to an online learning tool that they can continue to use as they learn as a family. And finally, we just wanted to encourage a lifelong learning mindset. It's not just children who are interested in learning. Families want to learn together, and parents are a huge part of a family's learning environment. So we wanted to explicitly integrate them into this program. So here's our agenda for today. I'm going to talk a bit about the basics. Some of these slides will be familiar to some of you all, just the basics of the program. We are going to talk about the engineering design process and complete our first design challenge. We're going to talk about program management resources. We're going to complete design challenge 2 together. And then we'll talk about resources, next steps, and questions. So again, we have scheduled this training to go for an hour and a half, and we are excited to build and learn together with you today too. So this slide is potentially familiar to some of you. So this is a bit about the AI Family Challenge model. So our Curiosity Machine team supports the participants to complete the AI program. We do a lot of resource creation. We create the curriculum. We support all of our partner sites. If you guys have questions or need help or want to meet, troubleshoot, we do all of that. We do the curiositymachine.org website maintenance. We have social media and marketing relating to this, so our team supports those core functions. You guys fall into this partner sites branch, this yellow branch, where we have over 60 partner sites implementing with 3,600 participants around the world. Each partner site has one or more project leads. Again, we call those coaches at each site. and they lead the program with families. So our Curiosity Machine team doesn't ever directly lead the program. We support others to lead the programs. This other branch, this green branch, if you're curious, we don't just have this program for partner sites. Our website, anybody can use our website to complete the program, and we anticipate about 10,000 participants to complete the program at home. Because all of the design challenges are posted online and all of our resources are there too. People can choose to lead this in their own ways. And again, if you have questions or thoughts, don't feel shy about putting them in the chat box or speaking up. Just let me know if any questions pop up. I can't actually see your guys' faces, so you'll have to let me know if anything comes up. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about our partner sites because we are so excited to have you. We carefully selected our program leaders. We selected sites that we thought were going to lead this program well throughout the world. We collaborate closely with our partners. We want them to feel supported. We want you guys to feel like you can come to us for resources, communicate with us about how the program is going. So that's a lot of the work that we do. And you guys give us feedback to help us adapt and improve the program as well. So you are our first AI cohort of partner sites. We've been running this model, like I mentioned, since 2010, but this is our first AI specific program. So we are very excited to have you guys giving feedback. Megan was asking about translating earlier, so adaptations you make to the program, if you translate our materials, that is all very helpful for us to understand and have visibility on, so we can bring those materials to more people as well. So what you also might have noticed, to support our partner sites, everybody has a dedicated Curiosity Machine team liaison. So the person who's been mostly emailing with you is your dedicated Curiosity Machine team lead. So if you ever have questions or need anything, you can always reach out directly to your Curiosity Machine team lead as well. So I want to talk a little bit about program goals. So we have program goals for your participants, who are the families, and then we also have program goals for the coaches, who are you guys, because we know that you guys are learning a lot and maybe building different skills as you lead a program as well. So let me talk a little bit about our goals for coaches. So we want the coaches to build comfort with organizing and leading sessions. We want you guys to find a good rhythm of coordination with our team. So this first part of the program, the first 5 design challenges, you'll see it referred to as stage 1. So when I talk about stage 1 program goals, we really want all of our partner sites to get into a rhythm of communication with us, feel comfortable with that, feel comfortable with the program, organizing and leading with families, become familiar with our website, and also prepare for the summer program, which we will talk about at the next training a tiny bit. Families or the participants in your program throughout these first 5 design challenges should gain a basic understanding of AI and the concepts. So we're going to dig into that in a bit. We want the families to build their learning identity together. So this could be the first time that families are learning together. They might not feel comfortable with solving problems together or being challenged together, and that's okay. It's okay for families to sort of build their learning identity throughout the first stage of this program. And we want the families to use the engineering design process as a method for solving hard problems. So we're going to talk a little bit about the engineering design process as we move throughout today. It is a process for solving problems. The process can include failure. It can include trying again. It can include planning for something different. So really supporting families on the process for solving problems is something we're going to focus a lot on today, because families have to learn that too. It's a skill, and we hope that our program supports them in building those things. So this slide is probably familiar to you. This was on our RFP, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here right now. January is done. We are onboarded, all of you guys. We're completing the trainings. February through May is when that stage 1 happens. So those first 5 design challenges, the implementation of the program happens. June and August is our summer design challenges. There will be another training to support you guys on how to lead those. And then September through December is our stage 3 with our capstone project. We will have another series of trainings on those. And then January 2019 is when families submit. So our training today is really going to focus on this orange box. How do we recruit families to participate? How do you set up the program? How do you lead the first 5 sessions? And how do you communicate with us? That's going to be the main focus of our trainings right now. And then this is probably a familiar slide to some of you as well. And as I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because you guys have probably already picked up on this. So Curiosity Machine provides a lot of support for our partners, including the curriculum, including communication and trainings throughout the year. So I am going to move into the engineering design process and our first design challenge. And I am going to turn this over to Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Elizabeth. I'm based in New York City, and what I do is work with families, educators, engineers, after-school providers to learn how to adapt the Curiosity Machine curriculum to your site. And so I wanted to talk today about how the AI curriculum and the engineering design process will work in your site. So the AI curriculum is inspired by real-world artificial intelligence, science, engineering applications from companies who have sponsored these design challenges. And they are really the starting point for you to think about how to introduce this to your families. However, we don't want it to be the ending point. We really want all of the AI curriculum to be personalized to your site. These are going to be hands-on activities that can be led by anyone. It's really important to emphasize that they can be solved in more than one way. My ideal end product for a session would be if everybody had a prototype that looked completely different and was inspired by different aspects of engineering and science. And this is important because we're going to use these really accessible materials. And so there's going to be some limitations to how efficient your prototypes can work, how well your prototypes work when you're building with office supplies. But the process and the inspiration is going to be a big part of each family's success. The part that the engineering design process plays in a family's success cannot be overstated. This cycle of looking for inspiration in the outside world, turning inward and thinking about how it works in your community and planning, and then building a prototype, testing it, and redesigning it and reflecting is a form of strategic thinking that's used in design thinking. School children will recognize it from how they're learning to write essays in their English or language classes, how they're learning to solve math problems. So it's a very familiar process to them, and we're using it in a specific way at Curiosity Machine through the engineering design process. This cycle of build, test, redesign is really important because in learning how to problem solve and learning how to use growth mindset, how to deal with failure that occurs when you're thinking through a really hard problem, redesigning, going back and fixing problems with your prototype, building a completely new prototype is an important part of problem solving. You may have already seen some of the materials that we provide on the Curiosity Machine website to help with the inspiration and planning. But like I said before, we really want every site to personalize it to their own needs and their own community and look for inspiration for each stage within their own site. So you, I hope, have received the engineering design cards that list possible activities that can occur at each stage. For example, in the inspiration stage, we're looking for ways to understand and define the problem, looking for different things that inspire us to propose a solution. In the engineering design cards that you have are a series of behaviors or actions or little jobs that students and parents can do to help them complete each stage. We really want families to think about each stage separately so that they really get the most out of it. This also helps them over time to be prepared to take on more and more difficult problems. So as I'm talking through these different stages, if you want to look at your engineering design cards and pick out tasks that match with those, we'll talk about them again in a minute.
Elizabeth, can we just pause and ask if people received their engineering design cards?
Let's see. I'm looking for, you can raise your hand if you have it.
Or link in the chat box as well.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so if you have not received the engineering design cards, it's not a problem. While we're talking, you can just grab a piece of paper and a pen and think about activities that you would do at your site. And so here's some of the examples. I've actually cut mine into actual little cards because I'm sorting them into piles.
Elizabeth, I'm also linking on the side the cards. So you should be able, if you click that link, to view the cards that Elizabeth is referring to.
Great. Thanks, Devin. All right, so I'm going to just go back to this slide here. I'll try to make it a little bigger. Okay, I'll leave it like that so I can go back and forth and see you all also. All right, so as I mentioned, the inspiration stage is really how you start to understand the problem that's proposed. When we do programs, we really like to have a special time for inspiration. We show the video, we talk about people's experience with that idea in their own community or other, whether they've seen it at school or experienced it in other ways. And then we move to planning, actually putting your solution down on paper, drawing a blueprint for your prototype. It's really important for students to make their thinking visible, their families' thinking visible. You'll notice that the design challenges at the beginning are a little bit easier, and then they progress in difficulty over time. It's scaffolded that way on purpose. We want students to practice solving easy problems, practice recording their ideas and their experiences and their observations so that over time they're prepared to handle more and more difficult problems. During the planning stage might also be when you need to introduce the materials to the students or tools that they're going to use to manipulate the materials so that they have that information when they're looking to make their plan for their prototype. During the building stage, they're actually physically building the prototype. A lot of testing also happens during the building stage as students try to connect materials together and discover that they need to make a change. This is a really productive time to do those mini test and redesign cycles. What we encourage students and families to do is to record all the changes that they're making. Testing is an important part where you actually are seeing if your prototype solves the problem, whether or not it performs in the way that it's supposed to, and we encourage everyone to take both measurements, how high it jumped, how far it could travel, as well as observations. Did it go in a straight line? Was it able to do the same thing 3 times in a row? I live in New York City, so I always use the example of skyrise buildings. There's no elevator in New York City that has not been tested until it fails. We encourage students to test their design challenge or their prototypes with more and more difficult problems, bigger weights. If it's something like a suspension bridge, or in this case, more and more complicated sets of information to really make sure that they've designed something that can solve the problem. Usually the result of testing is that it doesn't work the way you planned completely. You learn something new about the design and then you need to redesign it. Again, we like students to look back not just to the building stage, but look back to the inspiration and planning for more ideas on ways to better improve their prototype. Like, this is an important step in learning problem solving, is creating one solution, seeing whether or not it works, and then creating another solution based on your experiences. And then at the end of every session, we really want families to reflect together, not just on their experience of engineering today, but how this experience connects to the real world, whether they would give advice to another person, another engineer working on this problem, whether they could use this information in another part of their life, whether they could use what they've learned in this experience in another part of their life. Inspiration and reflection are more than really just bookends in this process. They are almost the most important work of the engineering design process for students who are learning to be really strategic thinkers, to be design thinkers, and they'll need those skills for the engineering challenge that they're going to solve at the end of the AI challenge. Okay. So perhaps while I was talking, you were thinking of ways that you could do each stage using the resources in your community or in your classrooms, or looking through these engineering design cards. I would love to see and hear what everybody's been thinking about during this time. So unmute yourself and jump in, or you can chat them.
Another thing we can do if people are maybe feeling a little shy is I can screen share the cards, and then Elizabeth, maybe we can all sort of shout out where we think those cards fit into the engineering design process. So we can do this however it makes sense if people are feeling a little shy. Oh, Amy has something.
We have one comment that came in that said this really complements what we do with our regular programming. Do you want to comment more, give an example of something that really connected for you?
Yes, here at our facility, throughout the school year, we serve kindergarten through 8th grade students, and we try to always present the design process throughout the year. And so I love that they're going to have opportunities to do this with their families, and then also it's summer opportunities. So I really enjoy the format.
Great. I especially like what you said about multi-generational learning. I think each age uses different skills and has sort of a different knowledge set that they can bring to this experience.
Great. We also do public openings once a month where families come in and do create activities with their children, among other things, and this ties in beautifully for that.
Some of these cards are actually purposely designed to fit into more than one category. And here's an example of one of those. The action is using prior knowledge. In terms of thinking about how your families will work through the engineering design process, and what stages do you think that they will be looking to their prior knowledge to help them in the process?
One thing that we found is our families really rely on our facility to shore up that prior knowledge or new knowledge. We are fortunate enough to have a planetarium, an aquaria area, a nature trail, a lot of different areas that they can build on knowledge that they may not have had before. That's why we really feel like, these cards, having the at-home piece through Curiosity Machine, something they can do independently, will do nothing but just accelerate their understanding.
I agree, and I wanted to emphasize something else that we talk about a lot at Curiosity Machine, and that is the idea that our programs are not designed to make people experts in any area of engineering. We're not preparing materials to make people into STEM content experts, but we are preparing people to be experts at solving problems, to use this engineering design process as one tool that they have to solve problems of the type that we present, but also of the type that they may experience in other areas of their life and other learning opportunities. And so having an environment where there is richness in experiences and will let them bring all of those different aspects into solving their problems. But also, certainly not limited. I find that even with children, sometimes their imagination is enough inspiration to help them solve these problems. One other one that I wanted to mention was the idea of testing to determine if a prototype meets the criteria and constraints. So for each design challenge, the challenge itself may list several criteria that we're hoping can be solved within building two prototypes. Sometimes if you have a mixed age group, there may be some people who are working at a more advanced level than other students, or the families might be sort of only working through the early stages of the criteria. And so again, this is an opportunity for you as the coach to differentiate the criteria and constraints so they really suit your families. If everybody is finishing early, you may add another criteria on. If you're building, for example, later on the neural network where there needs to be 2 nodes, you might say to your families, well, think about first a set of objects that would be more diverse, and then create a new neural network that has 3 or more nodes to sort the information, so that when they solve the challenge, it's not the end of the learning process. It's not the end of the engineering design process. I think most engineers would say once they solve a problem, they're usually left with a lot of other questions that they'd like to be able to pursue if time and money allowed. I see that Devin has highlighted another one, and that is discuss what worked well and what needs more improvement. Yes. Devin, why did you highlight that one?
Well, I highlighted my favorite. So this one would fall into sort of the reflection time of the engineering design process, which I find families need to be encouraged a lot to do, because it's not always like the fun playing with materials. But I really believe that we need to ask the families what worked well, but also what didn't work well. What was hard about solving your problem? I sometimes even ask, like, where did you fail? Because if we're trying to create problem solvers and people that truly use this framework to work their way through a problem, a part of that is not succeeding. A part of that is reflecting and sharing with each other what they learned and like what was challenging. So that's one of my favorite things to highlight, one of my favorite activities to do throughout the design challenges.
I totally agree. And what I often do when I'm coaching a session with families is grab my own design portfolio and start thinking through the problem. Even though I've usually practiced it before the session, I will bring, and I actually have one here today to show you later on of where I looked for inspiration, how I started the planning, so that can see all the times I had to scribble out and change my plan, or see that my test didn't actually mean that my prototyped work. I think as much as we can model the process, the actual solution to the design challenge follows along with it.
I'm wondering if for anyone else, one of these activities stick out as something they think can be useful or they want to build into their engineering design process in these programs.
Actually, I had a question about using these cards and kind of teaching the engineering design process in general. Do you usually lead with the process, or do you lead with a challenge and then use the process to kind of guide students along the way and maybe underline it after a couple of challenges? What's worked best for you guys?
So I think it varies a little bit on the composition of your group. When there's adults there, when the parents are there, I usually will lead with the process so that they can understand what the path, what the trajectory of the class is going to be like, and so help reinforce each stage. If I'm in a classroom with a group of students, I usually take them through the activities. Start with the inspiration activities and then encourage them to write down their inspiration. So make it less explicit, but have them practice, you know, in sort of in the order each stage. I think some of my other teammates are here. Does anyone else approach it differently?
Yeah, I could jump in, Elizabeth. I usually, when I'm working with a group, I usually lead with the engineering design process, and I explain the steps so that they understand why is it important to take a couple of minutes and really focus on each of these steps. Sometimes when asking, before when I would barely start doing design challenges and I would just present the challenge and kind of move everybody through the engineering design process, sometimes kids just didn't understand, like, why do I need to plan? Like, it just seems tedious, and they missed the why. So I felt that I switched up my strategy, and I saw a lot more success when my participants understood the importance of each of these steps, and they dedicated a little bit more time and effort into each of them.
Thanks, Trudy. And I agree that if you're managing the group, it can be useful to check in with everyone after each stage. Tell them you're going to allow 15 minutes for inspiration, and then at 15 minutes check in and see how people feel about that process. Similar with the planning. Sometimes during the planning stage, I'll notice that people are maybe struggling with one aspect of it. In that case, it's nice to check in a little bit earlier, have a touch point, find someone who's maybe a little bit further along and ask them to explain to the group how they're doing it, so that you also include that idea of peer-to-peer learning.
Elizabeth, can I just take I'll jump in here too. One of the things that has really helped in the planning is also provide a couple 3 or 4 prompt questions for your entire group. Something that everyone could get started with. Start thinking about your design. We're going to be building the, mechanical theater. What would you use for the body? These are our materials. Think about that. Think about where are you going to be placing your, whatever it is. Come up with 3 or 4 questions that all of your entire audience could already start thinking of, and then everybody pretty much starts thinking of their designs in their own very specific ways.
And that's the perfect segue to the content for the AI curriculum. In the AI curriculum, you're going to have 2 sets of materials. There's a set of slides for each design challenge that provides more background information, and those slides are structured to walk you through the engineering design process with your families. The other set of slides is an overview set of slides to help you prepare for the program. You're welcome to use those slides as part of your programs, but it gives you more sort of openings, discussion topics, hooks to really help your family make connections between the material and themselves.
All right. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And we will send out these cards as a soft copy so you guys can look through the different activities too. I think it can be really interesting to see all of the different ways you can go with activities during the engineering design process. I'm going to move us forward because naturally we're a little bit behind schedule. I am going to talk a tiny bit more about the AI content now. We have another poll open to hear about how comfortable our coaches are with AI content. So I just put the link into the chat box, and it is okay for you to say you're not comfortable at all. It's okay for you to say you have a lot of information. So however you feel about AI content, if you can go ahead and share with us, and I will pull up that poll right now so we can check. All right, so from a scale of 1 to 5, 1 is very unfamiliar, 5 is very familiar. Let's see where we fall. We've got a lot of people falling on the very unfamiliar or unfamiliar area. That's totally fine. You don't need to worry about that. We anticipate one of the reasons why we created this curriculum is because we knew a lot of people didn't know about AI. So happy to see where people are at on their understanding. We also have some people who are pretty familiar with AI, so it will be great as we move through this program to get your guys' feedback as well. Okay, I am going to present our slide deck again. So the first 5 design challenges, we're going to start talking about the first 2 today. You have probably seen this list of the design challenges. They build sort of the basic foundations of AI-related concepts, and they also teach families a bit about the mechanics that they're going to need to build a capstone project, like how to create a circuit, how to build some simple machine, stuff like that. So if you have logged onto your Curiosity Machine dashboard, you will be able to click on the Educator Resources link to find all of these slide decks, but I wanted to note that every session we have created adaptable slide decks for you to present these design challenges. We have put in the EDP process, we have put in our AI content, and this is what the big AI ideas are for these sessions. So week 1, the big idea that your session is going to build on is AI is a computer that can learn like humans. And so as you explore your no wire session slide deck, this is the idea that you're going to be working on building with the families. The second week will be AI can be learned by being taught. So again, as you dive into those slide decks, and I apologize, we don't have time to go over every resource in detail, but as you dive in, you will see that we have built the content to help families explore these ideas. I'm going to turn this portion over to Rusty, who helps to develop our curriculum. He is going to present to everyone the No Wire Circuit Design Challenge. If you got your materials, that's great. We're going to use them. If you didn't get your materials, that's okay. We can just have you explore the design challenge and explore some examples. So Rusty, I will let you go ahead.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's morning in California, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. Great. So for this design challenge, I'm going to kind of model how I would present it to the students. So I'm going to do this very briefly, but to back up, just as Devin mentioned, we have some overarching AI concepts that we'll be introducing through every design challenge week by week. However, we need some foundational knowledge for students to build their capstone project during stage 3. So this is kind of this is the first design challenge that the students will be doing, and this serves really as a foundational knowledge design challenge session where the students will really start experimenting with the engineering design process and figure out what it means by building a hands-on design challenge. So in this design challenge, we're going to be building a no-wire circuit. So to really dive into what we mean by that, we have to define what we're talking about with a circuit. So an electrical circuit is a loop of material that allows electricity to flow through this loop and power something. So this illustration that we have, if you'll notice, there's 3 components. So we have a battery, which is your power source, which is holding all the electricity. Then we have wires coming out of either end that are conductors, and this is letting the electricity flow through the circuit and powering the light bulb, the LED. So we'll dive into a little bit more what we mean by these different components. But this is an electric circuit. This is the way that we're able to move electricity from a power source through a material to do something like light a light bulb. So the way that we let electricity flow through a circuit is by using something called a conductor. So electricity can actually flow through all materials, but it can flow through some materials much, much better than others. So the materials that electricity can flow through are known as conductors. And so a conductor is basically the inside of a wire. So this is usually something that's metal material. So if you'll see, we have a couple examples, like a penny, which is made of copper, is a great conductor. And also a paper clip, which is made of a type of metal, is also a great conductor. So the opposite of a conductor we call is a is an insulator. And so we can think of an insulator as the outside of a wire. So this is something that doesn't allow electricity to flow very easily through the material. So common examples of insulators would be rubbers or foam. So we have a couple examples on this screen. And a great way to provide this and model this to students really is by looking at a wire. So if you'll notice, the inside of a wire is made of copper, which is the conductor, which is providing electricity to flow through the circuit, while the outside is an insulative material, usually a type of rubber, which does not allow electricity to flow through, and that's why it protects the interior electricity so you don't get shocked. So great. So when we talked about a electrical circuit, if you notice, I mentioned that there are 3 main parts. So we're going to identify those parts here. So one being the power source. So we need something that is able to hold the electricity. And this is usually a battery. So this is something that students will be working with throughout this design challenge. So a power source is the fundamental part that saves all of the electricity. Then you need a way to move that electricity from the battery to the object you're trying to power. And so the way that you let the electricity flow is by using a conductor. And so once again, to reiterate, a conductor really is anything that allows electricity to easily flow through a circuit. So these are generally metal objects, as you can see, a paper clip. And finally, the third component of that circuit is the load. So this is what you're trying to move the electricity to. For instance, this is a light bulb or an LED, as we're using here for this design challenge. So that's a brief introduction to the main concepts that will be introduced through this design challenge. So with that, we want to kind of explore with some of these elements. So the design challenge that you'll be working with is we'd like you to build a circuit that uses at least 3 conductors to light an LED without using any added wires. So if you'll see, we have an example on the screen. And so this one actually uses more than 3 different conductors. But if you'll notice, we have a battery on the left-hand side of the screen. And then we have a series of conductors that let the electricity flow through the circuit, through to the LED and back to the battery without using any wires. So here are some basic materials that the students would have access to. So this is a really fun one because this one, the students really get to explore different materials that they have around them. I encourage students to kind of play with different objects. So if they have, maybe their parents have keys or, other kind of potential conductors. They can even use pencil lead if their pencils actually have lead in them. But kind of experimenting with what can actually let electricity flow through and what prevents electricity from easily flowing through a circuit. So one thing to note, and this is something really important to keep in mind, the LEDs that we actually use for this design challenge are what we call polarized. So that means that they can only accept electricity going through one direction. And an easy way to notice this or to remember this is that the longer leg of the LED has to be connected to the positive side of the battery, while the short leg needs to be connected to the negative side. So a great way to kind of experiment with this is, first test to see if your battery powers the LED in one direction. If it doesn't, just switch the LED to the other direction. Very, very fun stuff. So great. So I think we have some time for you guys to build a little bit, but I'd love to take some questions. If you guys have any questions about this design challenge itself, if you guys want to explore some other ways to solve this prompt, feel free. If you guys have any questions, I'm around.
Rusty, do you have any examples of really interesting conductors you've seen families use before? Since we do encourage creativity here.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, my favorite, and I kind of mentioned this, is using pencil lead. So if a student can basically, if they have a pencil that it actually still has some, not all pencils have lead within their, the filament, but if they are able to draw on a piece of paper, do a really, large line, and then they can kind of connect that to other conductors within their circuit. And so the electricity is able to flow through the paper, through the lead, through this circuit. That's a really fun one as well. But yeah, I really like the idea of the students playing with whatever they can find. There's, they can basically just explore through their backpack, whatever they have. If they have scissors, if they have something fun that they'd like to play with, encourage them to kind of introduce it into the circuit. That's what's really fun about this one. This one is really a trial and error approach to the design challenge, because if it doesn't work, that's fine. They can just, supplement it with another material they may have.
And I think Rusty is hinting towards a point that I want to emphasize is we will send you out materials lists for the program. I have a really bad echo. So we're sending out materials lists for the program, but those materials lists are adaptable and they are not exactly strict. So if you have a material that you think will work better, feel free to substitute it in. If you don't have the exact amount of things, that's okay. So those materials lists, I just like to emphasize that those are suggestions that can be adapted.
Yeah, that's a great point, Devin. So this one really serves well to exploring with different materials, but that is the same with all of our design challenges. We really encourage students to, think outside the materials that we actually have access to. And this as an educator, when you're actually, procuring all of the materials, that's a really fun way to think about it as well. We don't have to have these very strict guidelines for materials. These are supposed to be very open-ended and supposed to be able to supplement what you have access to. And I like this idea of using candy foil wrappers. That's a really fun one.
Okay, so if we don't have any questions on this, I think we will try to move on, because the second design challenge that we have is a little bit trickier than this one. Feel free, as you guys are exploring the materials, to chat in any questions or reach out to us. I want to see if there are just any other follow-up questions right now before we move on a little bit. Thank you so much, Rusty, for presenting that.
My pleasure.
Okay, that one's, I think, a really great introduction. So I'm excited for you guys to practice that design challenge. Okay, I am going to move on now to our our next portion of this, which is a little bit about program management. So because you guys are running these events, these sessions with 30 families, we have some time built in to tell you about some resources and responsibilities for our coaches. So I break down your timing a bit like this. Leading the program at your site will take about 75% of your time. So recruiting your participants and leading and preparing for those sessions, that will be the bulk of a coach's time. The other part of the coach's time will be communicating with Curiosity Machine. So like this trainings, that falls into that bucket. We also have what we're calling weekly or session reports, where after each session, you will receive an email from us asking us to complete a form that tells us a little bit about how the session went. It reports a little bit about attendance. If you want to talk to any of us, it just gives us a good idea of how the program is looking at your site. So expect to see those coming out. Once you send us your program calendars, you will get those session reminders. So this is, like we said, about 100 hours for the coaches throughout 2018 and can be split between coaches. So most of our sites do have at least 2 coaches, and that is totally fine. We anticipate this being the breakdown of your time. So when we talk about session coordination, there are 4 buckets that I like to challenge coaches to think about. So the first bucket is technology. So when you're presenting to families, you're going to need AV for presenting a slide deck, and you're going to need computers for stage 1, these first 5 design challenges for the first and last sessions. And we will be talking a little bit more about that in our next training, because we ask families to complete a registration online and also a post survey online. We need computers at the first and last sessions. And again, if you have questions about this, we could talk more. Materials for sessions. So the second bucket would be what types of materials are needed for families. So if you are providing food, all of our design challenge materials, check-in forms, all of the paperwork that you need to keep track of attendance, and then space for families like tables. So that is another bucket to consider as you are setting up the program. Recruitment. Recruiting 30 families. We have flyers and other resources for you. We have a slide deck that you can use to recruit families. You need to also consider how you're going to retain the families to come back for each of the sessions. So that is something that partner sites I know are already thinking about. The last thing is communicating with Curiosity Machine. So like I said, we have trainings throughout the year and then session reports that should take 20 minutes or less to complete after each session. So those are the big buckets. I like to show this adaptable session breakdown to help people begin to think about how they want to frame their agenda. So we generally recommend about 2 hours per session. We suggest that the coaches show up before the session at least 30 minutes prior to help set up all of the paperwork, all of the food, all of the materials. It's helpful to just get everything there. If you have volunteers helping, have them show up to help you set up this session as well. The first 30 minutes of the session, families are signing in, they're eating, maybe they're starting to look at the materials that are around. The second 30 minutes would be you as the coach presenting the design challenge and supporting the families to create their plans. The next portion of the session would be families building and testing their design challenges. So you do have to just give families time to learn together and build and test together. The final 20 minutes would be the families presenting what they made. You can ask them questions. You can ask them to share with people at their table. However you want to. This is like sort of the reflection time that we mentioned. And then again, the final session is a special session because we need families to be able to complete the post survey online. The first session, as I mentioned, we ask families to create accounts and complete pre-surveys. We're going to talk more at the second training about those specific logistics, so I'm not going to go too deep right now about that. Then finally, after each session, you should allocate about 30 minutes to clean up and complete your session report. So I wanted to take a second to just talk about the different resources we have for recruiting 30 families. Again, these are adaptable. I have had people asking if they could translate or create sort of bilingual versions. I've been having people ask for editable slide decks. That is totally fine. Please just be communicative about your needs. Here are the resources that we have. We have a flyer that is editable. We have a calendar that you can put in the session dates. We have a slide deck that you can use. Some of you are having kickoff events. Some of you are sending home information, so you can use this. And I wanted to see if anybody had best practices they would like to share. On our RFP, we were asking for ideas, and we had a lot of really cool ideas that I wanted to highlight, including kickoff events, like I mentioned. A lot of people were going to have food to help recruit families. Some sites have meetings on the weekend. So let me open this up now to, if anyone wants to chat in or speak about ideas that they have for recruitment, let's maybe take 3 minutes to think about this. And please don't feel shy. It's really whatever has worked for you or what you're trying to build into this program.
So one retention tool that I've seen sites use really effectively is to give families, each member of a family, a raffle ticket for each session that they attend. So at the end of the session, as families complete the reflection and the sort of checkout stage, they get a raffle ticket. Then at the end of the 5 sessions, you raffle off a prize or an experience. Some sites have used like movie tickets donated by a local theater, or they've saved some money in their budget to raffle off an engineering toy, a little robot, or some other sorts of toys, or even raffle off an experience with someone who is important in the community. That's always been really fun.
Thanks for sharing that, Elizabeth. If anybody else has ideas for recruitment, oh, great. We have some, yeah, and Katie mentioned a good point. We have some Technovation people who have been doing recruitment. So feel free to chat your ideas. Don't feel shy. This is just sort of a community of ideas. I am going to move on to presenting the next part of this, but please feel free to chat in your ideas. That will be helpful for everybody to see. So I just like to have this slide here. As a coach, you guys are running the program, and I know a lot of you actually have education backgrounds, so this is potentially pretty redundant for you, but our coaches, they lead the sessions, they set the tone, they make families feel welcome, they present the information, they support the timing. If families look frustrated, they approach and help, or they can send a volunteer. They lead the reflection as well. So coaches are like the superstars of the program, and they really help to make those families feel comfortable, because like we talked about earlier, learning together as a family might be new or difficult for some people. So they really do the awesome work of making our program successful. So thank you, all of our coaches. These are some strategies for leading hands-on learning. They are connected to the engineering design process activities that Elizabeth showed us earlier. I'm not going to talk about each one of these individually right now, but they are here in this slide deck if you need ideas about how to facilitate the sessions, or if you're training others to facilitate these sessions. These can be some good strategies to show them. And now I'm going to turn this over to Elizabeth to present our Design Challenge 2.
Devin, if you want to leave the slides up, I'll talk from yours.
Sure.
So the second design challenge is the safe stopping robot. And the theme for this week is the idea that AI can learn by being taught. And so part of your introductory discussion can be a comparison of how AI is different from other computer programs. All computer programs can be taught. AI can actually teach itself by using new information and learning from that. So in that way, AI is really similar to humans. And so we can learn from our experiences. I'd like to talk about how humans learn, how we get information, and how the AI would get information. And those ideas are also highlighted really nicely in the inspirational video, which shows AI robotics in an industrial setting. Safe Stopping Robot is always so fun on the second week. Devin, you can switch the slides because it taps into prior knowledge. So in the first week, you reviewed electrical circuits, and now we're going to take it a step farther and make explicit something that people probably experienced in the first week, and that is when a circuit is closed, the light lights up because the electricity is flowing. And then on the next slide, we'll see an open circuit. So an open circuit is if you have flipped the switch and now the electricity cannot flow in that circle, and so it cannot light up the light anymore. But on the next slide, we're going to see that rather than using a light in this system, we're actually going to use a DC motor. The DC motor is actually a little easier to use than an LED light because it's not polarized. If you see the two little wings at the top, you connect the electricity to both of those wings, and it can be in either order. What happens is that the motor just rotates in a different direction, and that can be a fun experiment to see it rotating. You're going to use this motor to make your robot move, and you're going to do that by adding a weight onto the post at the bottom that spins, and that's going to make it vibrate or shake, so it will move along the route that it has to take. So Devin, if you'll switch off the screen sharing for a minute. I wanted to share quickly the inspiration and planning that I did for the Safe Stopping Robot. So here I didn't use the design portfolio, I just grabbed a piece of paper and thought about several different things that were the basis to kind of like guide my thinking through the inspiration process. So I started thinking out about like comparing myself and what sensors I had to what a robot would have. So I have eyes, a robot has a camera, I have ears, a robot has a microphone. And then thinking back to the inspiration video, I thought about why you would use an AI robot specifically for jobs that are too dangerous for humans, like for lifting heavy objects in places where there's no air to breathe, or in the example that's given in the video, this when you need to do the same task over and over again. And so it was actually, that sort of brainstorming part was really fun for me. I wished I had somebody else here to do it with me. And then I started thinking about what type of robot I'm going to build and what problem it needs to solve. And so I was actually really inspired by the use of robotics in the Fukushima in controlling the nuclear reactor after the tsunami hit it. And so robotics were used to bring that situation under control. And so I wanted to design a robot that would be able to walk into the nuclear reactor's control room, find the off switch, and turn it off. Knowing that I don't have all the tools right now to do that, but I'm going to be able to work first. The first part of the problem is actually getting it to move into the reactor room. So I drew a plan. And so I had to make two parts. I had to make the path that it followed. So I have a little conductive railway. And then also my robot. So I made an attempt on my plan to label all of the different parts for the materials. And in the end, I got so confused trying to draw how everything was connected together on the robot that I made a little sketch of just all the conductive parts. So the battery, the motor, there's one arm touching the rail and then another arm touching the rail. And when they touch my rail, which is actually a ruler covered with foil, then they would complete the circuit. So I moved on to the building stage. Here's my DC motor, my battery pack, everything. When I connected everything the first time and tried it, it actually didn't work. That was very sad. So it should work. I already named it Supergirl. It's not super yet. So what I did is I tested the battery on the motor just to make sure that the DC motor works. And so the DC motor works. That tells me that there's some actual problem with my circuit. And once you experience the no-wire circuit, design challenge, you'll realize one thing that often inhibits connectivity is not having really strong connections between parts. So my next step in the building and redesign process will be to go through and check that each part is really connected firmly so that I have a complete circuit. Deb, would you go back to the slide? So if students are getting stuck, they can also look to the inspiration gallery on the Curiosity Machine website, and this provides other examples of how students have solved this problem. And this slide also highlights some of the examples of how you can create your safe zone. So the robot is going to work when it is on the aluminum foil or other conductive surface. That's the safe area. In the safe area, it closes the circuit and so it can move. When it moves off the safe area into this insulative area, the circuit opens and then it's no longer going to move. We've been using robots made with paper cups. Any sort of material that is lightweight is good for building these robots. You cannot see it clearly here, but where you place the weight on your DC motor needs to be able to move freely, or that will also prevent the motor from moving, and so will be sort of a false signal that your circuit isn't working. I like the robot on the right. One thing that we find is that lots of children want to decorate their robots. I'm all for decorating. We emphasize make it work first. Make sure all of the parts work and then decorate. If you have googly eyes, they are fantastic for this design challenge. The next slide shows a list of some of the suggested materials. So the battery packs and the batteries, DC motors come with different requirements, so you want to make sure that you're matching the power of your batteries to the power required for your motor. There's lots of conductive materials that we suggest using, clips, paper clips. These are wires with alligator clips on that can be really good for children that have limited, fine motor skills, although they have an adult there, that really helps them with it. And then when it's all over, we really hope that you will set up a big testing station so that everyone can see all of the robots working together, so that the testing really becomes an important part of the process and even the reflection process. I think, does that movie work? Great. This is a really fun design challenge, and really good to build on the skills. In your second week, there'll be less paperwork to do, so you'll have more time to really dig deeper into the ideas behind this design challenge.
Yeah, and I like to, sorry, Elizabeth.
Go ahead.
I like to show that video because it shows you can see the robot when it's on the conductive foil surface, it's moving, and then as soon as it touches the masking tape, which is more of an insulator, it stops, and that will be what you want to see from the design challenges as well.
And that reminds me to mention another thing. On the website, there are also instructional videos available that give one example of how to solve the problem in the design challenge. We suggest that you watch them before, as part of your preparation for the design challenge, but that you do not show the instructional videos to your family. The one time that showing the instructional videos to families can be helpful is if you get to the testing stage and everybody's kind of stuck and struggling with it, then you can use the instructional video to reintroduce the problem and how to solve it. But it's better to hold off on showing possible solutions until families have gotten through the first cycle of building and testing. Back to you, Devin.
Yeah, okay, so as you guys are building these design challenges. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We were trying to build in some time today for you guys to explore them a little bit, but I do want to give everybody time for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and move on here. So the final part of our training today is just to reiterate where your resources are. Again, all of these resources can be found when you log on to Curiosity Machine in your dashboard. Click on the Units tab, and then click on the unit there, and you will see a lot of resources. In fact, let me show what that looks like. So when you log in and you click on the resources unit, you will see this AI Family Challenge Coach resources. So this has a lot of paperwork. So if you are wondering where like the session calendar is for participants, you can click on it and it will pop up, and you can see, you can download this and edit your own flyer to recruit families. We have a very nice program materials list. When you click on it, it will download a week-by-week breakdown and also an overall shopping list for you. What else do I want to highlight here? We have links to all of the pre and post surveys. We have 2 versions of the design portfolio, which we'll be talking about in our next training. So the design portfolio is a resource that you can hand out to families to help them work through this process. I'll give a little peek right now since I'm talking about it. But you can see the design portfolio includes the inspiration, it includes an area for planning, it includes an area for reflecting, so all of those fun things. Check-in sheets, all of the slide decks that we've been mentioning for the sessions are linked here, as well as the session reports. So each session report for the coaches to complete after the sessions are linked. They're all unique links, so be sure to find the one for the right week. And then you also can see the design challenges. So these are the first 5, and then you will also see the next 3 design challenges for June through August are on here as well. So that's a little bit about some of the resources. Again, we invite you to explore those. Let us know if you have questions. Those are all available to you for you to use and adapt. This is something to consider when working with adults. A lot of you have an education background, but maybe not all of you are familiar with working with adults. So it can be useful to think about how you want to engage them as well, since they are going to be part of your program, and you want to make them feel welcomed and comfortable as well. Okay, so I want to just talk a little bit about next steps and any questions. So we have part 2 of this training coming up. If you can't attend the trainings, your Curiosity Machine team lead is reaching out to try to schedule a time to talk with you in early February. All of our resources that I showed are on the unit. And then I would ask that you start considering a program calendar for all of your sessions. We will be asking you to turn in a program calendar within the next month, so we sort of understand when you are planning on leading the program. So I want to open up now for any questions or thoughts or follow-up from any of our awesome partner sites and coaches. I guess everything is perfectly clear. Go ahead, we have a question.
Okay, so we are onboarding a few more coaches and facilitators for the program over the next week or so, for them to be able to log on to Curiosity Machine to access all those resources you just mentioned. Should we send their emails to you, or can they just do that on their own on the website?
I love that question. Thank you for asking it. So if you have more coaches that you want to onboard onto Curiosity Machine or as points of contact for the program, if you can email your Curiosity Machine lead. If you have a point of contact, email them the names, or email us the names in their email. If you want to add people onto your Curiosity Machine account, if you can send us their usernames, and we will put them onto your program. And then another thing that I want to just mention is that the families for your programs will have a special URL that you will give them to sign up and register for the program. This is so you and your coaches can see the family's progress and you can see if they submit anything. And we will be sending out those special URLs within the next few weeks. So as you have families signing up, they can use that URL. Are there other questions? Before we sign off, I will challenge you guys to complete the design challenges and let us know how it goes. I highly recommend completing the design challenges before you implement them into your programs. So I definitely encourage you to take pictures once you build, take pictures of your plan, share them with us. We would love to see them. You might see them pop up on social media. You met Katie, so now you know who that is. So please feel free to explore these resources and don't hesitate to talk to us throughout this process. If there are any more follow-ups or questions, Curiosity Machine team, am I forgetting anything? Good. Okay, I'm going to send out this recording. And I thank everybody for coming today and making the time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Your own time.